Well, hello, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors, and our fellow shining stars. Our next trolley stop is here, and our next trolley stop is now, and it's a very special one indeed. Welcome back to the PR from the Heart Children's Book Spotlight Series, episode number 163. That is the 163rd trolley stop here at the Children's Book Spotlight Series as part of our holiday season celebration, our Thanksgiving special. You might see some floating balloons and things of that nature. We have the wonderful space here, of course, at the North County Media Center. It is so great to be back here once again for our second episode over the course of the past 2 weeks here. Thanks to Jefferson and the wonderful team out here at the North County Media Center for accommodating us here as part of our holiday season celebration. You can just kind of envision, if you close your eyes, you see this beautiful Thanksgiving spread, whether it be the sweet potatoes or the green bean casserole or the roasted Brussels sprouts. What can I say? I love veggies, but if turkey is your thing of choice as well too, you can feel free to pass along and put some extra helpings on your plate here while you are joining us here this week for episode number 163 of the Children's Book Spotlight Series. Out of the 4 years that we have been doing this beautiful program in service to children, parents, families, educators, those who love great children's books, it truly is a joy to be able to connect with all of you this week. And if you see those 3 letters that are in front of you, they spell Joy. As we take the time to reflect, as we take the time to focus on all that we have, to take the time to spend and focus on what we're grateful for, those bring up a lot of feelings of joy. Now, there are times when it's not as easy to do that. We can take the time to focus on the sadness, the things that are not going right in our lives. And you ever notice that it's kind of like almost like when you have a headache, when you focus on the headache, what happens? It becomes a migraine. So one of our newest neighbors here at PR from the Heart is reminding us that joy is everywhere, that you can even thrive and you can find joy in the most challenging and difficult of circumstances. One of the most highly anticipated children's books of 2022 is now available courtesy of our friends and neighbors at Random House Children's Books, and courtesy of, I never thought that I would be saying this, but His High Holiness the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. We encourage all of you, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars, to head on over to Amazon.com or wherever you purchase your favorite children's books and purchase your copy of The Little Book of Joy. Again, it is now available while on Amazon. You can leave a 5-star review if you feel guided to do so, as that is one of the many ways that you can pledge your support. I never thought again that I would be saying this, for His High Holiness. Pledge your support for His High Holiness, the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu, the late Archbishop Desmond Tutu. And joining us here in studio, the trolley doesn't have to travel very far because Rafael Lopez is here in San Diego with myself, so the trolley can have a little bit of a rest, so to speak. But you have seen his work over the past several decades. He is one of the top illustrators in the kidlit community. He's a New York Times best-selling illustrator multiple times over. Joining us here in studio is our featured guest on episode number 163 of the Children's Book Spotlight Series as part of our Thanksgiving special. It feels like you're like the Grand Marshal of our parade here this week.
Feel that way just right now, John. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
And as you can tell, this wonderful, we have our own Thanksgiving / Christmas / holiday season spread here. We've got the 3 letters Joy, and we also want to give a little shout out to one of our favorite friends and neighbors here at PR from the Heart, award-winning author and illustrator John Parra. He's actually brought Rafael. By the way, it just rolls off the tongue, so to speak. We'll talk about that momentarily, so put a pin in Rafael. You can head on over to Target or Target.com and you can purchase the holiday swag that John Parr has actually created. There's ornaments, there's Christmas cards, there's little holiday bags that you see right here. So John, we want to thank you for helping to make this Thanksgiving special, this wonderful trolley stop that is episode number 163 of the Children's Book Spotlight series that you are now enjoying. You are with us in spirit. And we also encourage all of you, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars, if this message of joy, if it's already lifting your spirits, if it's coming at the perfect time, and you know what they say, things always come to you in perfect and divine timing. The best things happen when you least expect it. If there's someone that you know that is struggling, that is feeling challenged, that maybe is not necessarily looking forward to celebrating the holiday season, help them to remind them that their miracle is possible by reconnecting to their JOY. So we encourage you to be able to subscribe to PR from the Heart's official YouTube channel and to share this very special trolley stop that you are now enjoying. That is episode number 163 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. So much to get into. First time that we're connecting in person after the, again, 4 years of doing this program. So it's really a joy to be able to have you here and to be able to connect with your work. And we're going to talk about this a little bit over, but one of the first things that I noticed about you when I was introduced to you, you are very humble. You are very grounded. And someone such as yourself, who has had multiple accolades, traveled all around the world, is now working with His High Holiness, again, so to speak. This is normally we kind of start off talking about the origin stories, where it all began, and then we'll kind of obviously move forward. So at some point in time, obviously on your path, you knew that your work and your mission was here for the children. For some people, it's a one-time experience. Sometimes it's something that is nurtured and developed over time. Take us back to your origin story, Rafael, where it all began when you knew that your mission, your purpose was here for the children to bring joy into their minds and hearts and souls in their lives.
Great. Well, thank you, John. It's a pleasure to be with you and with your audience. And everything started when I was a little kid. I've always been drawing. My parents fostered the love of drawing. They were both architects. My mom's still alive. And I thought I was going to become an architect, but then I was not very good with numbers. So they said, go ahead and do the other part, which is the art part. And they encouraged me to paint on the walls and do murals on our living rooms. And Mom would always say, well, we can always paint it back in a couple of years. That's fine. And I started then, eventually I went to an art school, a very good art school in Los Angeles, California. And I learned to become more of a conceptual illustrator. So I started working for corporations. I was doing a lot of corporate work and I was doing really well, but the corporate work didn't mean anything to me. I was basically just beautifying an annual report for people that were just going to become perhaps wealthier. And I thought my art needs to have more meaning than this. So at one point I decided to rediscover who I was, where I'm from, because I was born in Mexico City. And I thought of kids. I had that opportunity when a phone call came and they said, we've been looking at the switch on your work. You're looking a little more colorful. There's a lot of that influence from Mexico, and there's potential for you to be an illustrator and do children's books. And it was that opportunity. Someone that actually called me, and eventually I felt the joy. I felt the joy that my art was going to go out to a bigger number of people, especially young audience. And my whole life, the purpose is to just inspire them with my work in any way that I can.
I love that. And it sounds like, and it feels like that you were able to see that joy, feel that joy, connect with that joy early on. Let's be honest, we're human and divine. We have that human component and then the divine component. And when we're moving forth in our next steps, especially if we're bringing more joy into our lives and the lives of other people, those that we love, we care for, those who we're called to serve as well, we can experience some challenges along the way. Absolutely. They can be in the form of challenges, difficulties, obstacles, problems, stressors, troubles, worries. I actually alphabetized all of those, as you can tell, because they kind of have the same energetic component. Like, when you're feeling joy, it's a higher vibration. When you're feeling worry or stress, or you're in the midst of a challenge, it's kind of a little bit of a lower vibration. What were some of the things early on that you experienced? When I say challenges, difficulties, what actually comes to mind? And what were some of the things early on in your career that helped you to get through to the other side of that? Because again, it's very easy for someone who loves children's books, a parent, grandparent, a little one, teacher, principal, librarian, to say, Rafael Lopez, New York Times best-selling illustrator. He has it made in the shade. It's all rainbows and gumdrops for Rafael. So could you kind of debunk that theory, so to speak? What were some of the challenges and difficulties that you experienced along the way? And what were some of the things that helped you to get through to the other side of those?
I would very gladly do that. And this is a great question, John, and coming from different angles. But certainly everybody pretty much discouraged you to be an artist. It's sort of like, oh my goodness, you're going to be doing waiting tables for the rest of your life. It's just a very insecure job. But I have to have this. I was lucky enough to have parents that really felt, they helped me, they supported me. My teachers, the people that I knew that, I'm going to tell you a great story. Sure. At one point, I was ready to make a decision to go to college. And there was this teacher that used to be friends of ours, that she's no longer my teacher. She was my teacher like many years before when I was a kid, but she became a really good friend. And she was spending Christmas with us. And she grabbed me down and she sat me in the corner of the living room. She says, Rafa, because they call me Rafa in Mexico. Rafa, what are you going to do? And I started telling her, well, I'm thinking of this, I'm considering that, I'm considering marine biology, maybe geology. She kept looking at me, John. And then when I was done with all my theories of what I wanted to be, she looked at me and she goes, you're going to be an artist. And sometimes you need that person in life, to meet that person that is like a mentor, someone that knows something about you that you haven't discovered yet. So I encourage kids to never give up that dream. Eventually, you're going to find that support system, whether it's with a family, whether it's with schools, whether it's a librarian, or just a friend that is going to believe in you. And this person believed in me. And quite frankly, I didn't want to disappoint her, She gave me that look, convicted look, that she knew that I was going to be an artist. And that was the driving force that has kept me. And of course, there's been challenges. There has been times where, the work isn't coming, fast enough, or you doubt yourself. This is my last job I'll ever do. And that's not true. Through the times, I realized that you continue to evolve and to continue to grow. And that fear has kind of like left me now. The fear that I'm from the very beginning of my career. So I tell kids, you're young. You have your whole life ahead of you. There's a lot of stuff that are going to happen. But if you continue to love what you do, it will happen.
That brings it, and that's a beautiful share, by the way. I want to take the time to acknowledge that, is that it's long since been said that when you love what it is that you're doing, it feels like you don't have to work a day for the rest of your life, or some sort of variation of that. The world of illustrating children's books is so fascinating, because without the visual representation, without the illustrations, it would just be words on paper,
right,
so to speak. And you have done such a beautiful job over a long period of time of really painting pictures and bringing stories to life. Taking a look back on your career and all the people that you've worked with, and we'll talk about that momentarily, like what does that mean to you in terms of, some people can just say, okay, so you illustrate children's books, but I really think, if anything, it's so much more than that. You bring stories to life. You're able to help to connect and open hearts in the process. So what does illustrating a children's book mean to you, especially looking back in your career, and kind of how that, maybe that definition of illustrating, or that phrase of illustrating a children's book, how has that evolved over time for you?
Yeah, these are all great questions, John. I'll start with this. I think I was a reluctant reader. And my son was also a reluctant reader. I could swear that he would never learn to read. He was about 5 years old and was like, are you ever going to read? So I thought, what about those kids that take a little longer to read? What if we can make them fall in love with books through the pictures? They'll open up, and that's what my kid started doing. He started looking at the pictures of books, and I go, this is a big role for the illustrator, to really engage those kids that are going to take a little longer to learn to read. So for me, there's also different reasons. Another one is the empowerment of kids, especially kids that are facing challenges. I was born in Mexico. I'm an immigrant. I didn't speak any English, and as you can tell, I still have an accent. But I was 18 years old. I didn't speak any English. Coming into a new environment, a new culture, was a bit of intimidating. It was very intimidating, just get through this. And I thought, how many kids are going through what I went through, and how many other millions of kids are going through the same? So I want my stories to also give these kids the empowerment. I want to see themselves reflected on my stories and my characters. And I want them to see that challenges do exist, But if you continue to be there, present, and continue to thrive, the challenges will be overcome eventually. And so those are the stories that I very carefully pick to work with us, when I look at authors. I also like the fact that they give me a lot of freedom to express conceptually what they're trying to get across through the words. So if you notice, my books are not very literal. There's a lot of openness for me to express what the author is trying to say. So I lean more toward the more poetic writing because it gives me a lot more freedom as a conceptual illustrator. I like that. And the reason I do that is because I think kids are very sophisticated. Their mind is very sophisticated. And every time they open the book for the second or third or fourth time, I want them to discover something new in the story. I don't want them to see it and say, I'm done with this book, I'm never going to open it again. I want them to be like a place where they can discover new things every time.
Your days, no doubt, have to be filled with joy, a lot of joy.
Yes.
Our dear mutual friend, John Parr, I remember one of our most favorite conversations that we ever had. And I think it was either before or after recording a Children's Book Spotlight Series episode, in fact. And he said, John, do you realize, it's like John P to John M. I feel like it's kind of like, high school reunion and you got the little name tags, they got, hi, my name is John P. Yes. Hi, my name is John M. And he said, John, do you realize how lucky we are to do what it is that we do each and every day? Because there are people that go to jobs that don't bring them joy, but they have to, move forth with those jobs, at least for the time being, so they can take care of themselves, they can take care of their family. I can just envision, and for those of our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars, could you walk us through the typical day in the life of Rafael Lopez when you are in your studio? Take us through the sounds, the smells, the feels. What does that look like? If you can really paint a picture for our audience, what would that look like?
Well, I live in downtown San Diego. I purchased an old warehouse back 27, almost 30 years ago. Everybody thought that I was losing my mind. When they saw this thing, they're like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Remember, I'm the son of two architects, so I can close my eyes and imagine what this is going to look like in a couple of years." And it did. So this is now the place where I live and I work. My studio is in the very front part, and then I also do the digital stuff on the second floor. And I wake up in the morning. I'm an early person. I like to go for a walk or a bike ride early in the morning, 5:30 to 6 in the morning. Come back, clear my mind, because some of the best ideas never really happen in the studio sitting in front of a black desk. Or a white desk, whatever color you have on your desk. They usually happen at any time. They could happen while you're watching a movie or listening to a musician or reading a book or going to the museum. So I tell people that's never going to stop me from going out there and saying, it's my time for me to start to think of ideas. So I do a lot of that. And then I have my coffee, I sit down, I turn on some music. I love Latin jazz music. I love that percussion. And I start to just draw. And I tell people, don't be afraid. Don't expect to do a masterpiece from the get-go. I do a lot of doodles that I put on the side. I never throw things away. I just put it on the side. I have my pile of things that could be eventually used in the future. And it's taking a lot of breaks. I take breaks sometimes if I feel like I have a creative block. I just go for a walk. I go for another bike ride. I come back, or I actually flip through a book. So there's a lot of things that fluctuate. But the magic of this whole thing is that you're going to start with a white piece of paper where there's nothing. And by the end of the day, hopefully you'll have a great idea for some future illustration. So it's very fluid. There's a lot of going back and forth. There's a lot of music. There's a lot of sketching. And there's a lot of sometimes frustration and then sometimes tons of joy, more joy than anything else.
And it definitely sounds like you emanate joy, that you really, it sounds like I'm just getting this visual of like you like doing your bike ride and kind of starting off your day. That it's like joy is a part of your daily practice to be able to connect with that, because no matter if you are bagging groceries at the local grocery store, if you are a postal clerk on your own things, if you own your own business, it's really important now, maybe more than ever, to be able to connect with that joy, because it's the highest frequency possible.
Yes.
And even the most mundane things, you can experience joy with them. So again, we encourage all of you, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors. Well, first of all, we want to thank you for spending some quality time with us here in our neighborhood at the North County Media Center here in San Diego. We got Jefferson behind the glass doing his wonderful job. Jefferson, I think, is loving the sweet potatoes here, by the way, today. I'm almost positive on that. He's got his whole spread on his end of things. It is the Thanksgiving special here at the Children's Book Spotlight Series as part of our holiday season celebration. This is episode number 163 of the Children's Book Spotlight Series. He is New York Times best-selling illustrator Rafael Lopez. We are almost ready to dive into the pages of his brand new, beautifully illustrated children's book, The Little Book of Joy, of course, again, authored by, and again, this doesn't happen every day, but His High Holiness, the Dalai Lama, along with the late Archbishop Desmond Tutu, again, courtesy of our friends and neighbors at Random House Children's Books. You can head on over to Rafael's official website, and we've included that in the description below. He likes to keep it simple, his first name and his last name.com. But by going to Amazon, if that's your preferred online vehicle of your choosing, that's one of the many ways that you can pledge your support for His High Holiness the Dalai Lama, for the late Archbishop Desmond Tutu, and for Rafael, to let them know that they are doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books in the process. There is so many stories that have been shared on the Children's Book Spotlight Series in the 4-year history of the program, and so many stories within those stories. Take us to the point in time when you get a phone call or an email and says, we've got something special to share with you. His High Holiness, the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu are writing a children's book together, and we want you to illustrate it. Now, for those of our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow Shining Stars who are learning about you for the first point in time, you've also had the opportunities to illustrate for Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor's children's book, Just Ask, Be Different, Be Brave, Be You. So it's obviously, you have, in addition to working with Jacqueline Woodson as well, to the wonderful books that you've created with her, including The Year We Learned to Fly, which was your most recent release. Right. So again, you have these calling cards as part of your resume and your Rolodex, but I can just imagine, did you kind of have to say, is this like a pipe dream? Is this a fairy tale? Take us back to that experience. Walk us through what that felt like when you got was it an email? Was it a phone call? What did that look like?
Great.
And sound like and feel like?
And there's a great story here behind this one, John, because, of course, I was just done with, I was finishing The Year We Learned to Fly, the collaboration with Jacqueline Woodson, when I opened my email, and there's this email that says, from my agent, says, the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu are writing this children's book, and they want you to be the illustrator. And first of all, my reaction was like, I'm not reading this right. How could they approach me? This is not possible.
It kind of sounds like the kidlit version of Spam, where like the prince of the prince of a foreign country that you've never heard of is like wanting to give you $1 billion if you click this link.
Exactly. I'm like, no way. This is too good to be true. It's too good to be true. But then I read it again, and then I shared with everybody that was around, and everybody's like, "No, my goodness, I can't believe it." And I said, "Wait, but here's a little fine line underneath. Read this part," and it says, "Here's the thing. Here's the catch. We want you to finish this book in 3 months." And that's when I panicked. I went, "No way. I can't do this book. I come from concept, pencils, approvals, and finished pieces in 3 months. I am going to look horrible in front of the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu." So I wrote back and I said, "I'm very honored, but I don't think I can do this." And everybody thought that I've lost my mind. It's like, "You what?" I said, "It's not because I'm not interested. On the contrary, I love to do it, but I need more time." Mm-hmm. And my agent went back and I said, "Hey, Mr. Lopez needs a little more time because he wants to do the best job he can." And that was wonderful. When they got back to me, they said, "How much time do you need?" I said, "I need an additional 4 months if it's possible." And they said, "You got him," because I really want to, work with you. Mm-hmm. So that's when I finally said yes. But my first reaction was saying no, and not because I'm not interested. It's just I don't have the time. So that was it. And then we went on. We just dove right in, and the ideas were shared with both families. And it took a little while to get back to, because they need to travel all the way halfway across the world. They have to get their opinions and then send it back to me. So once everything was approved, it was just pure joy.
And this is not and by the way, this is one of probably the favorite time of each children's book spotlight series, when we dive into the pages of the newest, most heartfelt children's books from the shining stars in the kidlit community, such as Rafael in the Process. For those who haven't had the opportunities to see the book, to feel it, to experience it, this isn't just the traditional children's book. With all due respect, I feel that each children's book serves its purpose, so to speak. But you're literally taking two of the most open, beautiful hearts, these kindred spirits, these deep holy men, and they're communicating a message that translates language, that translates cultures, that translates class societies, so to speak. So can you walk us through the process of putting the illustrations and helping to bring the Dalai Lama's and Archbishop Desmond's Tutu story together, and really what little ones will love, and parents and families and educators when they enjoy the little book of joy?
Absolutely. I mean, these two are giants of humanity, right? In their own way. I mean, they both lived through unimaginable challenges both in their lives. You know, one gets evicted from Tibet to live now in northern India, and the other one have to suffer through decades of apartheid. So, I mean, these are two amazing people that could have been very bitter people because of what they've gone through. And in their case, they choose to be positive and to give something back to the world, to unify us, to find that kindness and understanding and even reconciliation in many ways. So this is a wonderful thing, you know, to learn about these two characters. They actually sent me a video where they met for the first time, and they sat them together and they asked him all these questions. And it was so refreshing to see this, John, because you think of him as this very holy man, but it was wonderful to see him as these two kids giving each other a hard time, and the bantering going on, and they were just like teasing each other. And I found that to be so refreshing. And I thought that's what I want to capture on the characters that we're going to be developing on the book, though. So it was great to see they're just as human as you and me. You know, they've gone through all the trials and the trials and tribulations that we've of them, but they've done a wonderful job.
And just having the opportunities, this is one of my favorite children's books, not only of 2022, but this is one of the most beautiful books that I've ever had the opportunities to read and connect with, because one of the things that I have called into my life is more joy. And just this past weekend, actually, I brought a little puppy into my life by the name of Little Forest, a Shih Tzu Maltese. And if you're enjoying episode number 163 of the Children's Book Spotlight series, you are now getting the first introduction to Little Forest. You see a picture of myself and Little Forest on screen. This is something that I'm really looking forward to experiencing more joy, and just, you know, seeing some of the illustrations in the book when you see all of the little ones taking the time and just, again, the child-sized versions of the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. You see and you feel and you connect with the range of emotions, because in life, we have to have contrast.
Correct.
In order for us to be able to experience joy, we have to experience the sadness and grief, so to speak. Was there any specific favorite illustration spread or any specific part of the book, so to speak? I know, again, this really feels like a labor of love for yourself, so I'm not necessarily asking you to play favorites, but what does that look like for you?
Well, you know, when I was approached about the story, they said, the one thing that we want to see is joy represented as a rainbow. And I thought, okay, we can do the rainbow, but there's been so many books where there's rainbows. And I said, why don't we create our own rainbow? And of course, you have to keep in mind that rainbow is going to represent joy. At this point, this is it, right? The joy that we'll want to feel. But I didn't want the joy to be from the very beginning. Like you were saying, John, we need to start with the story of the two of them living very challenging lives, you know, in poverty in South Africa and isolated in the Potala Palace in Tibet, and how much they long for company and friendship. And that's the sadness part where they can't find the joy yet. So if you flip through the pages of the book, I thought this would be a wonderful teachable opportunity for teachers and librarians to say, kids, I want you to find the joy. So the joy is hidden in the very few pages. You don't see it very often. It's hidden in the wings of a beetle. or in the smoke of a smokestack in this little house in South Africa. So I want the kids to really take the time to look for joy, because sometimes joy takes time to find.
Yes.
And as you flip through the pages, it becomes more and more evident. You find it in the cheek of the moon, or in the puddles of where, Desmond Tutu is jumping, and then you see the puddle, and eventually I wanted the kids to say, oh, it's here, it's over there, and eventually it's just overflowing, and it's just surrounding us all, right? So there's this, it's this growing evolution of not seeing the joy in the beginning, and at the end we all share it together.
And I really love the way in which you shared and communicated that, because it literally, like, this really must bring you a lot of joy to know the fact that as the result of reading the little book of joy, children are able to spot the joy,
Exactly.
connect with it, and it becomes more of their overall state of being.
Yes.
And their overall state of consciousness as well. And this is the one thing, let's be honest, as adults, sometimes we can come across as jaded or cynical, or we have a lot on our plate, so to speak, and it's very difficult for us to be able to, we can become disconnected.
Correct.
From the feeling of joy, so to speak. We always love to be able to provide some useful tips, whether it be supportive strategies, tips, just some conceptual information that our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars can actually take away in the process. So this question is actually meant specifically for adults, us as big kids. When we're feeling down, deflated, sad, depressed, what are some of the things that you can recommend to be able to reconnect to that state of being that is JOY, that is joy?
I think we are surrounded by little tiny pieces of joy around our lives that we forget that they're there. And just like in the book, there's a page in there that says, when you just focus on sadness is all you're going to see. But if you look behind that and beyond that, you're going to find joy all over you. I'll give you a perfect example, something that I heard during the terrible Hurricane Ian. And they were interviewing this person that sadly lost his home. And he was going through, through everything that was just the leftovers of his house. So when they interview him, he says, I just felt this total loss. And, you could feel for the gentleman, having lost his home and his property and everything that he said, and that he has gathered all this time. And then he said, all of a sudden I look up and I see my neighbor, and he's alive and he's walking toward me. And it brought me so much joy, despite the fact that I have lost everything I have gathered and purchased through the life, to see my neighbor that I really dearly, like, alive and coming over, and we gave each other a big hug. And that's what I think we need to remember, that there's joy all over around us, and we need to start feeling that feeling of overwhelmingly sadness and because life is challenging. There's so many things. We have war, we have famine, we have immigration problems, we have so many things that could really bum us out. All you have to do is turn the TV to really feel, sad for what's going on. And yet, if you turn out that TV and you look around, you see all the beautiful stuff that is around us, that we have formed in our lives with our families. And I think it's all there. It's pretty much evident if we pay attention.
And on the similar wavelength of that thread, we are parents and caregivers and custodians of our little ones. What can we do as parents, as caregivers, as custodians of our children to be able to help them remember that the joy is there, to help them not only remember that, but to be able to nurture and foster and cultivate joy? What are some specific things that come to mind for you?
I mean, one of the best things I think is always to give someone a hug. Hugs are just wonderful. No matter who gives you that hug, it's just something that is very comforting about that human connection. I do this with my son. My son has a high functioning autism, and he would have some huge meltdowns earlier. And I would just, I talked to a friend, and he says, what can I do? He says, all you have to do is hold him and give him a hug. And I do that. I hold him and I hug him. He's now 20 years old, and he's a hugger. He loves to hug. So I think it's just showing the appreciation for someone else, listening to other people. I think that's wonderful, to actually empathize and don't say, well, you're crazy. Why are you feeling these things? To say, I'm sorry that you feel what you're going through. Is there something I can do for you? But always be there as a lending hand, a lending friend, would care of so many ills and things that we go through in life.
And I feel that, again, it's a matter of when it's long since been said that when you take the time to fill your own cup, then you can be able to give more of yourself to other people. So I think especially around the holidays when it's very easy to have this laundry list of things to, again, Jefferson's now enjoying the green bean casserole. I tell you, Jefferson behind the glass, we feed him well. We want to make sure that he is nurtured, fed, and taken care of as he is doing our part to be able to share.
Don't need it all. I need a little bit for Jefferson again.
Save some for us as part of the Thanksgiving special of the Children's Book Spotlight Series, episode number 163. And we are starting to wind down our time with our featured guest here on episode number 163 of the PR from the Heart Children's Book Spotlight Series, New York Times bestselling illustrator Rafael Lopez. We are fully immersed in his brand new, beautifully illustrated children's book, The Little Book of Joy, co-authored by His Holiness the Dalai Lama and the late Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Again, you can head on over to Rafael's official website to be able to learn even more about the wonderful work that he's doing for children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books. If Amazon.com is your preferred online vehicle of your choosing, you can leave a 5-star review. Again, that is also one of the most wonderful ways that you can pledge your support for Rafael and for His High Holiness and for the family and friends of the late Archbishop Desmond Tutu, to let all of them know individually and collectively that they are doing much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books. And as we like to say here at PR from the Heart and the Children's Book Spotlight Series, some of the pillars of our community are children's libraries, our local libraries, and children's and independent bookstores as well, too. So obviously, if you want to be able to purchase from the big box stores as well, you can feel free to do that as well. But again, it's just something different when you take the time to be able to pledge your support for your favorite local library or children's and independent bookstore in the process. Life undoubtedly is a teacher, so to speak. And every single thing that we experience in life that comes into our life is a teacher as well, too. I'm curious, Rafael, what has the Little Book of Joy and working with His High Holiness and working with Archbishop Desmond Tutu and working with Random House Children's Books, what has this whole process taught you about yourself and also taught you about life?
Well, I mean, it's a reminder of that I have really lived. It's just like the movie It's a Beautiful Life, you know. Sometimes we forget that life has gone really well for me. I mean, I'm 61 and I have this adorable kid that I love so much. I love what I do, John. I wake up every morning and I think I'm never going to retire. I'm going to continue to be until my last day. They're going to see me with a brush and a pencil in my hand. And I think that that's something that sometimes you forget, that, look, you're doing what you love to do. You do it every day. I love to learn something new every day. And by working with these two giants was also that feeling of humbleness, of being deeply honored to send this message to kids by these two giants. And I'm the one that is actually illustrating their ideas and their words. And I want them to actually discover who these people are. The late Archbishop Desmond Tutu sadly has left us, but you know, His Holiness the Dalai Lama is still around, and they love to work with children. They wish they could talk and to every children around the world. But maybe with this book, there's a way for them to send that message that joy is all around us, including for adults as well. You know, we are too as well. Everybody needs joy in the world, and more now, more than ever, I think. So yes, it's a lesson to learn with every book I do, but this one in particular brought me that extra little humbleness, I think.
I agree, 100%. And I feel, again, it's very fitting. You know, the universe works in beautiful, mysterious ways. How here we are, it's Thanksgiving week, and, you know, we're getting ready to enjoy the pumpkin pie. Jefferson seems to be liking the chocolate cream pie. He's actually gone from, like, I know, like, having the veggies and then diving straight into the dessert. I'm not necessarily sure how, like, the whole digestive system actually works. But you know what? It's Thanksgiving. Go all out. Just make sure that you honor your body and how you're feeling in the process before, during, and afterwards. One of the things that specifically comes to mind, and you had mentioned about this when you found out that this opportunity was available, and I feel just kind of in like the collective drinking water, so to speak, I feel that many of our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars are going to be having their holiday miracle, their Christmas miracle, whatever it necessarily however that necessarily resonates with you. And we're just encouraging Rafael and myself is that when you get that wonderful opportunity, it's long since been said that, how does it go? That luck is where preparation meets opportunity, if I'm not mistaken.
I never heard that. That's incredible. That's
that
great.
if you get your own version of the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu are interested in having you illustrate their new children's book, if you get that email, if you get that phone call, you are ready. You are ready to be able to bring in more joy into your life. There, it may sound idiotic to a certain extent, but sometimes, we as human beings, we might have an allergy to joy, not an actual allergy like, almonds or, dairy or things of that nature. But, sometimes we might be more inclined to be in those lower vibrating states. If all we know is sadness and grief or guilt or shame or judgment, it's important, allow yourself to receive this Thanksgiving holiday. So whether it be through football, whether it be the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, whether it be, Jefferson right now, I think he's actually turning on the Christmas music. Jefferson is a multitasker here. He's putting this wonderful episode together here for us, and he's doing all of this and then some. There's two ways that we always like to close out each children's book spotlight series. And we're deeply inspired by the late Mr. Rogers. Of course, Fred Rogers, the host of the long-running children's television program, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. We always like to give a little tip of the cap to him. And throughout his own way, through his time on The Neighborhood, when he spoke across the country and around the world at different college commencement speeches, libraries, talks, whatever that necessarily looked like for him. And he did it in his own way in many respects through Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and most notably when he received his Lifetime Achievement Award at the Daytime Emmy shortly before he passed from stomach cancer. And he always kept the time, Rafael, whether it be 15 seconds, 30 seconds, or a full minute. And he always asked us, he reminded us to remember those who helped us love us into being. So that was his way of saying, remember those angels on your path who helped you to connect to that feeling of joy. I know that you had mentioned earlier in the episode there was a very big influence that you had growing up. So this may seem this may seem like a little redundant, but who would you like to publicly recognize here on episode number 163 of the Children's Book Spotlight series as part of our Thanksgiving special, as part of our holiday season celebration of the program that helped love you, Rafael Lopez, into being?
I would have to say my mom. My mom, she has been a very powerful voice. She has inspired me to be, to actually pick the characters that remind me of who she was. Someone that growing up in the 1950s that always had her own mind already made up. And she encountered a lot of challenges, and she was able to go out there and become an architect in an era when only men would be architects. So she proved to me that anything is possible if you want to do it, if you have the ganas, like we say in Mexico. And so, yes, this one is dedicated to Mom. Hi, Mom. I love you and I miss you.
Yes, and it's so beautiful that you took the time to share that, because Mr. Rogers always said that no matter where those earth angels are, if they're present and with us, if they're near, they're far, if they're in heaven, that they know that they're also taking the time to remember and reflect the positive difference that they made in your life in the process. Now, you might be wondering, I can see, Jefferson always stares at the genie lamp when we're here at the North County Media Center here in San Diego. This genie lamp is here for a reason. This is a little tip of the cap to one of our favorite Disney animated classics, Aladdin, and we think of the genie of the lamp. We think of the late Robin Williams. I believe that we, as open hearts and kind souls, we have the opportunities to help ourselves to bring to form and shape, to bring our wishes to reality, to fulfill our wishes, and to make them become our present life experience. And we have the abilities to do that for those who we love, we care about, and who we're blessed to serve in the process, to be able to bring to form and shape the goals, the dreams, the desires, the ambitions. So, Rafael, you have given so freely to many children, parents, families, educators, those who love great children's books around the world. And it's interesting because Rafael actually means, your name means in Hebrew, God has healed. So not only have you helped children, parents, families, educators, those who love great children's books, but you've also brought in healing into minds and hearts and spirits and souls. So you, Good sir are being given 3 wishes. Now, you thought this was a children's book spotlight
Wow.
series episode. I know that Jefferson's eyebrows always pop up when the genie lamp comes out, because especially around the holiday season, it's kind of like the intention of your wishes are magnified. It's long since been said that be careful what you ask for, because you actually have a good chance of getting it. And that's really the case, especially around the holiday season. So you're being given 3 wishes. They can be for yourself, they can be for your family, they can be for the children of the world. I think the only 2 automatic disqualifiers are you can't ask for more wishes, and you can't make someone fall in love with you. That has to be through the universe and through the flow, so to speak. Again, the best things happen when you least expect it. So what will your 3 wishes be?
Oh, immediately I can think of just one that is very strong for me, which would be peace on earth, of course. Peace on earth. We need it more than ever right now. I also love to feel that everybody has healthy. I wish for health for anyone, for long lives, so they can live a very beautiful and fulfilling life. And for the children of the world, a more understanding between all of us, because we have more in common that we have that is not common between us. So more commonality between humankind. Those are my 3 wishes. Yes.
I love that. And I feel that it's long since been said too, that when you take the time to wish from your heart and the intention behind it is pure, it has an even greater chance of coming to fruition. So again, we encourage all of you, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars, if you haven't had the opportunities to do so, you can head on over to Rafael's official website, again, which is his first name, his last name.com. We've included also his social media platforms in the description below, especially for all educators out there. If you are interested in facilitating a virtual or in-person author school visit with Rafael as part of the 2023 school year, you're welcome to connect with him in the process. You can, of course, also purchase your copy of the Little Book of Joy at your favorite local bookstore. Again, preferably if it's an independent or children's bookstore in the process. You can also head on over to Amazon.com if that's your favorite online vehicle of your choosing, and leave a 5-star review. That's one of the many ways that you can pledge your support for Rafael, for His High Holiness the Dalai Lama and the late Archbishop Desmond Tutu, to let them know individually and collectively that they are doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, those who love great children's books. Every once in a while, we always like to have a little coming attraction, so to speak. So obviously, the world of children's literature, especially working with the larger publishing houses, like we're already planning for like 2025, 2026. You have the abilities to see what the future looks like, which is totally amazing, right? That's an amazing gift that we all wish we could have. What are some of the things that people can expect? I know also in the world of children's literature, you can't give away the whole kit and caboodle, so to speak. So
I'm actually working on 2 ideas, because I think it's time for me to do my own story. So I've been actually holding on and taking any more manuscripts from other authors, fantastic authors, some of them friends of mine. But I think I need the time now to think of my own stories. And they're going to be inspired a little bit about how I remember myself when I grew up, and some of the personalities that my own kid Santiago brings. And so I want it to be a very universal thing that everybody could relate to, not specifically just one type of people. So I'm working on that. I'm actually working on the idea, and it's pretty rough, but I'm working on 2 different ones at the same time. And it has to do with accepting yourself, the unexpectable, the things that are unexpected, and how you get to adapt yourself to all these changes. So it's pretty interesting.
I'm super excited. This is, again, like you're coined from the same cloth, that same soul signature as our mutual friend John Parr, and he has brought many beautiful stories to life, and he was really called and guided to share his own story, and he did it, growing an artist, the story of a landscaper and his son. And I'm so glad that you are now pursuing that in the process. And of course, as we hear the trolley, you know that means that it is time to go. So first of all, raise your hand if you have had fun. I know that you're probably, getting ready for Thanksgiving, or if you are watching this episode on Thanksgiving or during the Thanksgiving holiday, you've got the whole spread in front of you, just like Jefferson, behind the glass as well too. But raise your hand if you have had fun on episode number 163 of the Children's Book Spotlight Series. Raise your hand if you are excited that it's the Thanksgiving week and that the holiday season is even more in full swing. It's really in full swing. And we see many hands from little ones on screen as well too. So as we like to say, mission accomplished, job well done. Again, one of the many ways you can pledge your support here for the Children's Book Spotlight Series and PR from the Heart, if this message has inspired you the story of the little book of joy, this wonderful conversation that Rafael and I had the opportunities to have today, the message of being able to find our joy, keep it close, and to share it with the world. If you now say, Rafael, John, Jefferson, I now can do that. It's not just a pipe dream. I know that I can do this. I can be joy because I am joy, and I can share it with the world. If you haven't had the opportunities to do so, we encourage you to subscribe to PR from the Heart's official YouTube channel and to share this very special trolley stop that has been episode number 163 of the Children's Book Spotlight series on your favorite social media platforms of your choosing. There are many more trolley stops still as part. We've got about another month or so to go left in 2022 before we head off into the yonder distance of 2023. So if you are a children's author or a children's illustrator and you would love to share your inspiring story in the release of your brand new children's book on a forthcoming edition of the Children's Book Spotlight series, you know where to connect with us, because you see our website and social media platforms on screen. prfromtheheart.com for our official website. And of course, you can reach out and connect with us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all at PR from the Heart. We also want to give a little tip of the cap to one of our favorite neighbors. I believe I had shared this with you, Rafael, but if I didn't, we actually have the opportunities here at PR from the Heart to be able to do a wonderful program each and every month. If you remember, of course, the late Mr. Rogers,
yes.
you remember the beloved Mr. McFeely on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, played by David Newell. We are almost coming up on the 2-year anniversary celebration of PR from the Heart's Neighborly Reviews bookcast. So again, each and every month, myself and David Newell, we have the opportunities to deliver the newest heartfelt reviews from the newest children's books from the shining stars in the kidlit community here at PR from the Heart. If you're interested in having David and myself share and review your brand new children's book on a forthcoming edition of the Neighborly Reviews bookcast, you know where to connect with us and you know where to find us. There are so many more exciting announcements that we're going to be sharing with all of you very soon. You now know my new dog. You now know his name, Little Forrest. There are even cooler announcements that we're going to be sharing that are, of course, with where we're headed, where the trolley is going in 2023 with PR from the Heart. So again, if you are a children's author and would love for us to be able to help you share your message with your neighborhood, with your community, with the world, because of course these resources of care, these children's books very much need to be placed in the minds and the hearts of our little ones to be able to bring them more joy into their lives. So if you are interested in facilitating a featured television interview or interviews of your choosing, a book media tour in a city or cities of your choosing, and again, for more information on the rest of our publicity services at PR from the Heart, you can schedule your courtesy connection call by heading on over to our official website, prfromtheheart.com, and let us see how we can be of service to you. One more time, we encourage all of you, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars, to head on over to Rafael's official website, which is again his first name and his last name.com, RafaelLopez.com. Head on over to Amazon.com, leave a 5-star review for the Little Book of Joy, if that's your preferred online vehicle of your choosing. And if you feel guided to do so, that's one of the many ways that you can pledge your support for Rafael, His High Holiness the Dalai Lama, the late Archbishop Desmond Tutu, to let them know that they are continuing to still do wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books. So, Rafael, this has been such a joy to be able to
pleasure being with you too,
to have you here today. And of course, since this is the Thanksgiving week, we want to take the time to thank all of you, because we take the time to reflect and to give thanks and to be grateful for all of you. For the past 4 years, you have now been pledging your support, now more than ever, for the Children's Book Spotlight series. So we want to thank you for your continued support of PR from the Heart, for your continued support of the Children's Book Spotlight series, for your continued support of children's authors and illustrators, such as Rafael, again, who are doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, and those who love great children's books, for your continued support of local libraries and children's bookstores, truly the pillars of our community. And above all else, we want to thank you for helping us to walk home, the children of the world. One final tip of the cap to our favorite neighbor, Mr. Rogers. In different ways, shapes, and forms, he reminded us each and every day. And somehow, Mr. Rogers, I don't know if you knew this, he actually weighed 143 pounds for his entire natural adult life.
Seriously, that's amazing.
And that was his way, in his own private numerology, of saying, I love you. There's 1 letter in I, 4 letters in love, and 3 letters in you. So since Rafael was kind enough to join us here in studio studio at the North County Media Center here in San Diego. We want to remind all of you of our favorite numbers here at the Children's Book Spotlight Series, which are 243. There's 2 letters in we, 4 letters in love, 3 letters in you. We're reminding all of you of your inherent worth and your inherent value. Just as Mr. Rogers did, we continue to do so in our own way here at PR from the Heart in the Children's Book Spotlight Series. We remind all of you that you are loved, that you are special, that you are whole, that you are complete, that you are healthy, that you are loved just the way that you are, and that you are worthy of receiving even more joy. So that is the recipe that's even better than the best turkey or the best pumpkin pie or the best chocolate cream pie. In the process, I can probably tell the word for the day or for the week or moving forth from here is tryptophan for Jefferson behind the glass, because we know that he's also enjoyed some delicious turkey. So again, to all of the wonderful people here, including Jefferson at the North County Media Center, it's always a joy to be able to have our trolley stops come here in the process. Of course, just coming off of our most recent episode with the Director of Corporate Publishing for the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance, Georgia and Irvine. So to be able to spend back-to-back weeks here at the North County Media Center, truly a joy as well, too. So again, for Rafael Lopez, for Jefferson behind the glass, for myself, John Massalonis, we wish all of you and your family, your loved ones, all that you hold near and dear, all of whom you hold near and dear to your heart, a safe, a blessed, and a happy Thanksgiving. And thank you for helping us to walk home the children of the world, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors, and our fellow shining stars. Goodbye for now.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Thank you.